He delivered groceries, but what police found linked him to Richard Ramirez. Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comment. It started like any ordinary Wednesday. The air was heavy with late summer heat as grocery bags crinkled in the arms of Richard Montoya, the newest delivery driver for Metro Groceries in East Los Angeles. To the neighbors, he was polite, quiet, and always punctual. Just another young man trying to make ends meet. But the woman on Maple Street would never forget him. Her name was Elena Ruiz, 42, a mother of 3, widowed. She ordered groceries often. It was hard getting out since the accident. She remembered the delivery boy that day because he smiled, but never said a word. Just handed her the receipt, nodded, and left. Or so she thought. That night, Elena's sister couldn't reach her. By morning, police were at the house. The groceries still sat in their bags on the kitchen table. The front door was unlocked. Upstairs, Elena's body was found tied to the bedpost with the phone cord. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no DNA. But her youngest daughter, 6-year-old Rosa, said something strange. The man with the grocery bag came back. He didn't knock. The statement was brushed off at first. A child's memory, unreliable. But it lingered, because 2 days later, the same thing happened again. Maria Gonzalez, 35, lived 5 miles away. She had a similar profile. Single, children, used the same grocery service, same delivery window. Her body was found in the same condition. Bound, strangled, no evidence of struggle. The press didn't catch it yet. Police were scrambling. But inside the East LA precinct, one detective was already drawing connections. Detective Angela Serrano had seen this pattern before, and it terrified her. In 1985, Los Angeles had lived through a nightmare. A man known only as the Night Stalker terrorized homes, broke in during the dark hours, and left behind blood and horror. His name? Richard Ramirez. But Ramirez had died in 2013, awaiting execution. There was no way he could be involved. Still, the similarities were bone-chilling. No forced entry, late-night attacks, the method of binding, the randomness, the whispered terror left behind. The only clue was in the delivery logs. A name, Richard Montoya, fake. The driver's license was a forgery. So was the employee file. No background check, no references, just a smiling face and a clean uniform. Gone without a trace. 3 victims in 1 week. All single mothers. All had used the same grocery service. The attacker knew when they'd be alone. Knew the layout of their homes. Knew how to come back when no one was watching. It wasn't a robbery. Nothing was stolen. It was something else. Detective Serrano went public with the warning. Metro Groceries suspended all deliveries. Panic swept through the suburbs. But it was too late. Jessica Tran, 29, was new to the neighborhood. She didn't watch the news. She didn't know. That morning, she had placed an order. Security footage showed her receiving the bags at 2:13 p.m. She smiled, waved. The next footage of her home was from a neighbor's Ring camera. At 2:48 p.m., a man in the same uniform was seen slipping around the back fence. 3:10, the screams began. Neighbors called 911. By the time police arrived, the home was silent. Jessica was dead. Her body posed, her children locked in a closet, terrified, shaking, and written on the wall above the bed, in her lipstick, were 5 chilling words. He said he'd be back. The story exploded, not just because of the brutality, but because of the audacity. A man pretending to be a harmless worker, getting close to homes, to children, and vanishing like smoke. They found the uniform stuffed in a dumpster. Blood on the collar. No prints. Just a tag stitched into the collar. An internal code. Detective Serrano went digging. Employee numbers. Inventory tags. Warehouse logs. And there it was. Metro 77 was issued to an employee terminated 3 months ago for failing a drug test. But that man was dead. Overdosed 2 weeks after being fired. Someone had taken his uniform, his badge, his identity. The FBI was brought in. A psychological profile was constructed. The killer was likely mid to late 30s, intelligent, methodical, no personal connection to the victims, obsessed with Ramirez mimicking the past, possibly even related. The media ran wild with headlines. Ramirez returns? Night Stalker 2.0? But the truth was worse. Detective Serrano received an unmarked envelope at her desk. No return address. No fingerprints. Inside, a single Polaroid. It showed her daughter, playing outside, taken from across the street. On the back, scribbled in red ink, "You're watching me. I'm watching you." The case was now personal, and the killer had just raised the stakes. The task force tracked a tip. A stolen delivery van spotted behind an abandoned warehouse. They moved fast. Guns drawn, they entered. Empty. But in the back, taped to the wall, another Polaroid. 5 faces, 5 victims, and a 6th photo slot, blank, until the officer noticed the photo tucked behind it. Detective Serrano's face. Below it, in blood-red marker, "Next." The neighborhood was quiet. Not the kind of eerie quiet that warns you of something wrong, but the soft, domestic stillness that makes you feel safe. That's why no one thought twice when the delivery van rolled up to the Briarwood cul-de-sac. It was late, just past 9 p.m. The headlights swept across driveways and trimmed hedges before stopping outside the Wilson residence. Annie Wilson, a single mother of 2, had ordered groceries through the usual service. It wasn't her regular driver, but the man wore the same uniform. He even smiled, but Annie never made it back inside. Her groceries were found scattered by the door. The porch light was still on. Her keys were in the lock, and her children, asleep upstairs. It was like she had simply vanished. By morning, the town was in chaos. News vans circled like vultures. Police tape cordoned off the front yard. Friends and neighbors huddled on sidewalks, trading worried whispers. Detective Maya Torres had seen this before, but something felt off. The scene was too clean. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken glass or overturned furniture, just absence and fear. She reviewed the footage from the neighborhood's smart security systems. One camera caught the delivery van. It slowed, stopped, headlights went off, but no footage ever showed any walking back inside. The footage froze on one image. The driver, standing under the porch light, his face hidden beneath a cap. It wasn't long before Torres found other cases. Nearly identical disappearances. Different towns, different names, but the same setup. Late-night deliveries, scattered items, no trace of struggle. She pulled up a cold case from Stockton, 1983. The file was yellowed and brittle. A woman named Carol Daniels, last seen accepting a grocery drop-off. Her kids were in the next room. No signs of break-in. Her groceries were spilled on the floor. And then another, Bakersfield, 1984. Teenage girl, vanished after pizza was delivered. All cases had one eerie commonality. A man described as friendly, quiet, and wearing a delivery badge. And then there was the sketch. It had only been seen once, hand-drawn by a survivor who escaped. Her name was Melinda Cruz. She had been just 19 when she opened the door for a delivery in 1985. The man forced his way in, but she had a baseball bat nearby. She struck him hard enough to run. She never spoke publicly until now. "I remember his eyes," she told Torres. "Dead, like there was nothing behind them. And his breath. It smelled like metal." She drew the face again, and Torres froze. It matched. The sketch looked just like a younger Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker. How could it be? Ramirez's confirmed killings happened in and around Los Angeles. But these were hours away. Could he have driven, disguised, and delivered death before anyone ever noticed? Torres needed proof. She called in a favor from a retired FBI profiler. He had been part of the original Night Stalker task force. Together, they reviewed delivery logs from long-defunct companies. One log stood out. A Richard M., hired as a temp driver in 1984 by a small grocery co-op. He worked nights. No photo, just initials. Then they found it. An old gas station receipt. Same town. Same night Carol Daniels disappeared. Signed R. Ramirez. It wasn't just a possibility. It was real. In 1986, months before Ramirez's final arrest, another woman disappeared, Lana Greer. Her story had been largely forgotten. She had been labeled a runaway, but now her family came forward. Her brother, Alan, revealed a detail the police had dismissed. She told me the new delivery guy gave her the creeps. Said he looked at her like she was already dead. Detective Torres reopened the file. Dental records confirmed a body found in a dried-up canal near the San Joaquin River matched Lana. She had been strangled, and one of her shoes was missing. It was a bizarre detail, but consistent. Ramirez often took trophies. In many confirmed cases, victims were found barefoot. Torres now believed Ramirez's spree was bigger than anyone imagined. That he hadn't just terrorized Los Angeles, but moved along the edges of other towns, cloaked as a stranger. And what if he wasn't working alone? Back at San Quentin, where Ramirez had been housed before his death, an aging inmate came forward. His name, Luis Vega. "I knew Richie," he said. "He used to brag. Said he'd killed in places no one would ever tie to him. He'd say, 'The suit makes them trust you. The trunk makes them disappear.'" Torres asked him to clarify. He meant the delivery uniform and the car. You don't need a dungeon if your trunk is a coffin. That was the moment everything changed. Ramirez hadn't been a lone wolf. He'd left behind a web, a pattern that spanned far beyond what anyone had documented. And the scariest part? A recent report from Nevada. A young woman missing. Groceries spilled. Kids upstairs. A man in a uniform. But Ramirez was dead. So who was continuing his legacy? The missing woman from Nevada, Sarah Whitman, wasn't just another cold case waiting to be forgotten. She was the fuse that lit a firestorm. She vanished 2 weeks before her wedding. A nurse, beloved in her community, smart, careful, and fiercely protective of her young sister, who she'd raised since their parents died. That night, she'd ordered groceries online, like always. Around 8:45 p.m., she texted her sister, "Food's here. Lock the door. Be down in a sec." But Sarah never made it inside. The groceries were on the porch. Her car was still idling in the driveway. Her phone? Found in the grass, screen shattered, a single notification glowing. Missed call, unknown number. Detective Maya Torres, already deep into the Ramirez reevaluation, saw the news and her blood went cold. The missing shoes, the untouched house, the perfect silence. It was all happening again. The Nevada police had no idea what they were dealing with. They still thought it was a targeted kidnapping, maybe even a runaway bride. But Torres knew better. She got in her car and drove 6 hours to Reno. When she arrived at the crime scene, she found something the local officers had missed. A set of barely visible tire impressions behind the backyard fence. A delivery van had parked in the alley. It was textbook Night Stalker. Only Ramirez had been dead for over a decade, unless someone was continuing his work. Sarah's phone had one more surprise. In her voicemail, there was a single, chilling message. A distorted voice. Just one sentence. "She came to the door like they always do." The call came from a burner phone, untraceable. But Torres requested a voice print analysis. The result was uncanny. It didn't match Ramirez, but the cadence, the breath pattern, it was studied. As if someone was mimicking the Night Stalker. Someone who knew his rhythm. A copycat? Or worse, a disciple? Back in Los Angeles, Torres met with Melinda Cruz, the survivor who had escaped Ramirez in the 80s. She showed her a still from a neighbor's doorbell cam in Reno. A man in a cap, face shadowed, standing near Sarah's home. Melinda stared for a long time, her hand trembling. "I don't think it's him," she whispered. "But that scar, it's the same one." She pointed to a faint line across the man's cheek, matching a wound Ramirez had gotten in prison. Could it be the same man? "Richie once told me," she added, "that if he ever had a son, he'd teach him everything. Said the bloodline had to live on." It sounded like madness, but suddenly, it didn't feel so impossible. Ramirez had no documented children, but Torres found something strange. During his time on death row, he'd had a visitor, a woman named Clarice Myers. She visited him over 30 times in 5 years. No known relationship, no family tie, and in 1996, she gave birth to a baby boy. His name was redacted in most of the files, but one slip from a medical report listed him as J.M. Myers. J.M. Torres found Clarice in a care facility. She was 68, battling dementia, barely coherent. But when shown a picture of Ramirez, she started sobbing uncontrollably. He told me the boy would be the storm after the silence. Meanwhile, another chilling discovery was made. An abandoned van was located in the outskirts of Barstow, California. It was torched, but parts of the chassis remained. Inside, detectives found a partially melted ID badge. Name Jason Myers. Company, Speedgo Delivery. There was no such company in business. But on the floorboard, beneath the ashes, lay something even worse. A necklace. Small. Pink. A child's name carved into the charm. Lily. Lily Harper. Age 9. Reported missing 6 months ago. Her body was never found. Now they had something more than coincidence. They had a trail. Torres received a call from the forensics team. Inside a false compartment in the van's dashboard, they recovered a heat-damaged, partially intact journal. What survived sent shivers down her spine. She opened the door and smiled. I smiled back. Ritual is respect. I left her shoes on the porch. Offerings must be made. He showed me how. The sharp must be silent. The dark must be total. I walk in his footsteps, and I make no noise. Each page was like stepping into the mind of someone unraveling. It wasn't a mere obsession. It was worship. The back cover of the journal was a crudely drawn map. Dots, dates, names. But one stood out. Lake Pine Ridge, June 23rd. That was 3 days away. Torres didn't wait. She alerted every law enforcement unit she could. Lake Pine Ridge was a secluded area. Cabins, campsites, barely any cell signal. If this Jason Myers was planning something there, they had to get ahead of him. They deployed plainclothes officers to blend in among the tourists. Rangers were briefed. Drones scanned from above. And Torres waited. For hours, nothing. Until 2:13 a.m., a van, white, unmarked, crept into the campground entrance. Parked behind a shower facility. A man stepped out, dressed in dark blue, like a uniform. He opened the back. A tarp, a length of rope, and a box of latex gloves. Torres didn't wait. She moved in. The man bolted. He didn't run like someone surprised. He ran like someone who'd done this before. But he didn't expect the drones. He didn't expect the ranger with the stun gun. And he didn't expect Torres, waiting behind a tree with her weapon drawn. They tackled him 400 feet from the lake's edge. His name? Jason Ramirez Myers. Confirmed by DNA. The son of Richard Ramirez. In custody, he said nothing. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't beg. He just whispered, "I was chosen." He left the door open for me. In his possession was a list, 14 names. Only 6 had been reported missing. 8 more, still out there. Torres stared at the list and realized the nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. It was a simple gesture, a habit. She didn't like to sleep with it on. But that night, that small act would erase her only defense. Her name was Lydia Harper, 32, divorced. She lived in a quiet cul-de-sac in Henderson, Nevada, the kind of place where neighbors waved across lawns, where kids rode bikes till dusk, where crime didn't happen, until it did. She'd placed an order for groceries late that evening. Canned goods, milk, fruit, nothing unusual. The app confirmed delivery by 9 p.m., and sure enough, at 8:52 p.m., she got the notification, "Your driver is arriving." A knock at the door, but there was no bag in his hand. No receipt, just a man, smiling. The footage was grainy, black and white, but it told a story more chilling than any witness could. Detective Maya Torres stared at the frame-by-frame video the next morning. The delivery man walked up the porch. He never knocked. Lydia opened the door just as he raised his hand, like she expected him. He spoke for a moment. She stepped back. Let him in. He never came out the front door again. Lydia's next-door neighbor, a retired veteran named Sam, told police he was watching a war documentary all night. His surround sound was on. He never heard a thing. The woman across the street, she said she noticed a van. But it was just a delivery guy. Those are everywhere now. I didn't think twice. By the time someone thought to check on Lydia, 36 hours had passed. She was gone. No signs of struggle. No blood. No broken glass. Just an open back door. And one bare footstep in the dust. Torres returned to her evidence board. That made 5 women, 5 homes, 5 orders, 5 back doors left open, and 5 missing shoes. Every single woman had been barefoot on one foot when last seen. And every delivery had been placed through the same grocery app. But here's the catch. The app didn't have a driver registered at the time of Lydia's delivery. Whoever it was had hacked the system. Or worse, used a fake front. The Harper home was swept top to bottom. But it wasn't until they reached the attic that they found it. A message, scratched into the wooden beam, nearly invisible. "Are you watching, Richard?" Torres felt the chill again, like she had at the Ralston farm, and the Carson motel, and the cabin in the Sierras. The message wasn't to a victim. It was to Ramirez. He wasn't copying the Night Stalker. He was communing with him. Cybercrime dug deeper. The grocery app had been cloned, copied and replaced with a fake version that mimicked the real one. Victims had unknowingly used the clone when placing orders. It rerouted the delivery to the killer. The victims gave their addresses voluntarily. Perfect trap. Even more disturbing, each cloned page included one small line of hidden code, an encrypted signature, NS 1984. Night Stalker, 1984, Torres muttered. He's not hiding. He wants us to know. Then a break. A woman, Emily Greer, walked into a Reno precinct with bruises across her neck and arms. She'd escaped. Her story came in gasps, tears, and fragments, but it painted a picture of horror. She'd placed a grocery order at midnight. The man showed up an hour later, claiming to be from the store's night delivery team. She let him in. He was quiet, polite, until he asked if she lived alone. When she didn't answer, he smiled and locked the door behind him. She fought like hell, kicked, bit, screamed. He slammed her head into the wall. She grabbed the knife from the counter, but he overpowered her. She only escaped when he tripped over her dog's water bowl and smashed through the glass table. She ran barefoot into the street. A neighbor found her and called 911. Emily survived, but her shoe didn't. Torres drew pins across the state, connecting lines between every known victim. They formed a spiral, a tightening spiral, all leading inward to one location, the cold, hollow storage facility, an old refrigerated warehouse near the edge of Death Valley. Abandoned, quiet, forgotten, until now. Torres assembled a tactical team. No waiting, no warrants. If the killer was still escalating, they couldn't afford delay. They arrived just before dusk. The smell hit them first. Rot, rust, decay. They moved through the facility in silence. Each frozen storage unit creaked with age. And then they found it. Unit 44, locked with a padlock, wrapped in chains. The team forced it open. Inside, 6 mannequins dressed in delivery uniforms, seated in chairs. On each lap, a single women's shoe. The walls were covered in Polaroids. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Every victim, every home, every shoe. And in the far corner, a monitor, live footage, of Torres. The screen glitched as they moved toward it. A voice crackled over an unseen speaker. "You're getting closer." It was his voice, calm, amused, confident. Ramirez watched the world fear him. "I'll make the world remember him." Then silence. But Torres wasn't looking at the monitor anymore. She was staring at the wall behind it. A bloody handprint, still fresh. He'd been there, minutes before. They ran to the rear exit. And once again, like before, it was open, just slightly, letting in the desert wind. He always left through the back, like Ramirez once did. But this man, he didn't just mimic the Night Stalker. He outplayed him. And Torres knew, this wasn't just the story of a killer. This was the beginning of a cult. As Torres stepped outside into the dying sunlight, her phone buzzed. Another body, another town, another missing shoe. This wasn't ending. It was spreading. And the man behind the smile? Still smiling somewhere. Still delivering nightmares. The wind howled outside the little farmhouse on the edge of Nevada. It was the kind of cold that cut straight to the bone. Inside, Detective Maya Torres sat with a cup of black coffee, staring at the photographs spread across the table. 5 women, 5 pairs of missing shoes, 5 homes where groceries lay like scattered clues, 5 stories that ended the same but only now starting to speak. She wasn't just chasing shadows anymore. She was chasing the ghost of Richard Ramirez. But tonight, something new had landed on her desk. Something alive. A witness. Her name was Eden, just 17. She worked the late shift at a 24-hour gas station off Highway 50. When she walked into the precinct, she was shaking. Eyes bloodshot, pale. "I think I saw him," she said. "Who?" "The man everyone's looking for. He wore a uniform, had a big car, said he was delivering groceries to the Ralston farm. But there's nobody living there." Torres stiffened. That farm had been abandoned for 6 years. What did he look like? Eden pulled out her phone. She'd taken a blurry photo from the station's CCTV. It wasn't Ramirez, he was long dead. But the man in the image had his same cold eyes, same sharp cheekbones, same smile that didn't reach his eyes. The theory was no longer a whisper. Someone out there was copying Ramirez, maybe inspired by him, maybe taught by him, maybe worshipping him. Torres connected the dots. Each new case echoed an old one. Each woman vanished in the same style, the same delivery disguise, the same eerie cleanliness, the same missing shoe. It was ritual. She drove out to the Ralston property that same night. The driveway was lined with tire tracks. A faint stench clung to the air, coppery, rotten. In the barn, she found it. A mattress, stained ropes, a delivery crate, and a single white sneaker. The initials inside the shoe, E.L. Eden Langston, the gas station girl. She had been bait. Torres called it in. Reinforcements flooded the property. They found blood in the back of the delivery van abandoned in the barn. DNA confirmed it matched a woman who'd vanished 3 nights earlier from Carson City. But that wasn't the only thing they found. A notebook. It wasn't Ramirez's, but it might as well have been. The pages were filled with drawings of shoes. Women's shoes. Names. Towns. Dates. 32 entries. "Whoever this is," Torres whispered, "they're not just continuing Ramirez's work, they're perfecting it." A man was arrested 2 days later. He had a stolen delivery van and a collection of women's shoes in his home. His name was Jared Lyon. No criminal record. Lived alone. Worked nights. But something was off. He confessed, but only to stealing shoes. Nothing about the killings. Nothing about Ramirez. Then Torres got the tip. Came anonymously. A voicemail. "You're chasing a ghost. Ramirez didn't act alone. You've only found the student. The teacher's still out there." One last property. A hunting cabin in the Sierra Nevadas registered to a defunct company once connected to Ramirez's cousin. Torres and her team went in with dogs and shovels. They dug for days. They found 6 bodies. All women. All buried with 1 shoe. All murdered after Ramirez's death. Torres stood in the snow, numb. The case she thought was closed never even began. She stared into the woods. Somewhere out there was the real killer. The one who had taken Ramirez's sickness and turned it into ritual. Maybe Ramirez had trained him. Maybe he had just inspired him. But the evil was real, alive, and still watching. As the sun dipped behind the mountain ridge, her radio crackled. Another report. Another woman. Another delivery. different town, same signature. Ramirez was dead, but the nightmare just beginning. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.